Hey guys, welcome to another video. Today we're going to be reviewing the Figma of Yami Yugi from Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Monsters. So Yu-Gi-Oh! Is very hype at the moment, I'd say, because Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel has just released a very good game that's cross-platform. Not advertising that, but I've been playing that a lot recently and had Yu-Gi-Oh! On my mind almost 24/7. So I thought I may as well do a review of one of the Yu-Gi-Oh! Figures I have, and of course I have to start with the main character. So I'll just get right into it. And I've got to say, this is one of my favorite Figmas. He looks really great. He's instantly recognizable. Obviously, that's more to the design than the actual figure. But it's great that you recognize him instantly as a character from Yu-Gi-Oh!, the main character. And then when you get up close to him, he's just really good overall. You can see his face is really nicely done. Obviously, this is a anime-based figure, so the detail isn't going to be that of a sort of 1/6 of a Bruce Wayne or whatever. But where the detail is really good. There's some in the Millennium Puzzle down here, which is really good. I've got the model kit over there, and it's almost one-to-one in terms of how they've actually sculpted and painted this. So that's really good. That's one of the accessories, though. We'll get to more of those a bit later. There isn't loads of paint on the figure, but where there is, like on the belt, his sort of bracelets there, and the studs on his shoes, it's cleanly done. On the dual disc as well, you've got that shiny blue paint there, which you can see catches the light nicely. That's really good as well. So where they have put paint, they've done it cleanly. I'm pretty sure this black on the hair is also painted, and you can see how clean those lines are there. So in terms of execution, really good for this figure. The sculpt is also really good. The hair's got that really wacky hairstyle that we know and love from the anime. The pants and the shirt have got creases sculpted into them. So, kind of if you are posing him in a dynamic pose, kind of like I have here, I suppose his coat helps that a lot. But it really adds to it having those creases in there to show as if there is wind blowing or something. So yeah, overall really good. Great sculpt, great details where there is paint. So, in terms of looks, I have to give this guy a 10 if I was rating him. It's exactly what you'd want from a Yu-Gi-Oh! Figma or Yu-Gi-Oh! Figure in general. We've seen Revoltech have done one of him, and that's just not good. Though the Revoltech one is of Yugimoto, so I would like Figma to do one of them. A head swap could work, but he is a bit smaller than him, so they'd probably need to do an entire new body. But yeah, we've mostly spoken about his looks and some of his accessories, but I would like to go over those in more detail. So if we look first at the dual disc, so I've mentioned how nicely done the paint is, but the sculpt of this is done really well, and how you actually apply it's pretty good too. So if I show this accessory here, this is the arm that comes out of the box. So all you need to do is plug this part into the elbow joint and this part into his hand, and then you just swap the actual arm piece out. So it doesn't clip on or anything. This whole arm is actually the accessory. And I think that's really well done. It makes it very easy to change. The only thing is sometimes the joint will come out with the dual disc instead of staying in his arm. So sometimes it's a bit fiddly to change, but it's pretty easy to do. So you can just take a pair of pliers and pull it out. You won't really damage the peg by doing that. So don't worry about that. He also comes with some cards. So he has just one single one, which you can use as the one that he's drawing. And then he has a stack of 5 for his hand. I suppose you can put them in either hand you want. I am noticing now, though, because I've had them in his hand for a while, that there is a bit of paint rubbing onto his hands. That doesn't bother me too much because, these are his hands that you're going to use for these cards. So the cards are always going to be in there. So I mean, you will get paint rubbing, which isn't ideal, but in this case, it's kind of forgivable since you wouldn't really pose him without. I mean, he doesn't look like he's doing anything there. So yeah, you would keep the hands in there. We have mentioned the Millennium Puzzle, but I'll just show that again because of how much detail there is in there for such a small thing. I mean, you can see how small this is. It's smaller than my thumbnail. So yeah, another great accessory. His coat is also removable. That just pegs into his usual peg for the Figma stand, but then you have another hole here which you can use the extender with. And this is done really well as well. You can see his sleeves there. It would be cool if we got sort of a swappable torso to put a coat on him, but that would probably be something you'd want with Yugimoto instead of Yami Yugi, since he usually does sort of drape it over his shoulders as if it is a cape. Probably just a Pharaoh thing. And that's mainly it for the accessories I have on him. Let's just get him back on here. Then for the other accessories, he has another faceplate. These come with eyes in there, which you can actually just remove, and then you can swap the eyes for different faceplates. So he has these two faceplates, one sort of happy or smiling one, and then he's got his serious one that I'm using there. He does come with 3 sets of eyes. I've actually misplaced one, so I've only got these 2 at the moment. This is the one he comes with out of the box, where he's just looking straight. The one I have here is sort of a side eye looking to the right. And then the other one is just exactly the same, just looking to the left. It's probably somewhere, but I can't find it at the moment. So here's a picture of how that one looks. Pretty much exactly the same as this one. Then lastly, he comes with different sets of hands. So out of the box, as always with Figma, you will get 2 fist hands. Those are pretty standard. Then you have 2 holding hands, which is kind of strange because there's nothing for him to hold. But if you want to have Yugi holding a sword, then from a different figure, there you go, you can do that. Then 2 sort of posing hands. These are just standard for Figma, but I like that with these you can do the sort of Exodia obliterate pose that he does against Kaiba, so that's pretty cool. And then lastly, he comes with sort of 1 pointing hand and then a sort of pointing hand, but with 2 fingers, both for the same hand. So yeah, really good batch of accessories overall. There's everything you need for a Yugi Figma, or Yugi figure overall. So yeah, accessories as well, 10 out of 10 if I was rating those. Definitely everything you need. I can't think of anything else you'd want to give him. If you can, let me know. Next, we're looking at the articulation. Before we get into that, though, I do want to say when I'm looking at articulation for a character, I'm looking at the character first. So if I'm looking at a Spider-Man figure, he has to hit every crazy pose possible. But for Yugi, who's not swinging from building to building, who's standing and playing a card game, he doesn't need to hit all those crazy poses. So if his articulation isn't great, that's fine with me. But having said that, it's still pretty good for this figure. So let's start with the head. He can look up a little bit, not that much. Range isn't great there, to be honest, but looking down is pretty good. And you can kind of get a menacing side eye kind of thing there with these eyes. So that's pretty good. And then you get rotation, obviously, as you do, because that's just a standard disc peg or ball peg, whatever these ones are called. Shoulders will rotate 360, but yeah, I'm always a bit afraid of doing that because of how wide his head is, and I don't want to sort of snap one of these off because these do look like they would be pretty fragile. But that's actually a butterfly joint in there, so that rolls backwards and forwards pretty nicely. And then, yeah, it will come all the way out. You can go even higher than that if you rotate it. So the articulation in the shoulder is really good. You just need to sort of fiddle around to get his sleeve to be back in the right position once you've done that. Then his elbow, standard sort of Figma ball pegs, or again, disc pegs, disc joints, whatever you want to call these. But then you get sort of bicep swivel with these pegs here, which is pretty good. And then you get more than 90, obviously, as you've seen. Hands, again, standard for Figma. They're just the pegs at the end of the balls. And yeah, they will just rotate in all directions. Those are really good. Hips, you get rotation there, and then backwards you can go about that much, and forwards, not too far forwards. But again, he's just playing a card game. He doesn't need to be sort of whipping like that just to put a card on a table. But legs, they will go forward this much. If you rotate them, you can get them out a little bit further. Then you get swivel at the bicep. Knee will bend pretty far, but again, you get that sort of Figma knee. It's actually not too bad on this one. If you look at the new Jujutsu Kaisen figure, that doesn't look great at all. And then finally at the ankle, you get rotation there. And you can get a decent ankle rocker, but the problem is you kind of need to pull the foot out just a little bit because the ball peg is right in there, and then these sleeves or the cuff of his pants will kind of hinder that a little bit. So yeah, overall articulation, just what you need for a guy who's playing a card game. I really like him. I think he can do any pose that you'd want a card player to do. So yeah, very good articulation. Last thing I want to look at is some size comparisons. So I got quite a few different figures here. So let's just get Yugi standing more or less straight up. And obviously the first figure I'm going to compare him to is his arch rival, Seto Kaiba. So I think these guys look pretty good together. The height difference is correct for me. I know in the anime sometimes he's a bit more taller than this. Sometimes he's a bit shorter, so it's kind of the correct average. So I think the height difference here is really good. Next, I have some SH Fig Arts. First, I have Kamen Rider Zio, who is about the same height as an Iron Man figure. This is just for your reference. You wouldn't pose these guys together. And I have Dark Knight Kiva from the Garo series. He's the tallest Shinkocho Seiho SHF, so I thought I'd include him again just for your reference. You wouldn't pose these guys together, but I mean, they do kind of look like they could be Yu-Gi-Oh monsters, so I think that's pretty cool. Next up, a Psycho Silver Ranger from the Lightning Collection line. Again, just for your reference, this guy's about the same height as the standard Marvel Legend. So yeah, this is just for you to see the height difference. Then I also have the Dasein model of Urameshi Yusuke from Yu Yu Hakusho. He's a bit taller, but just to show you what the difference in height is there. And lastly, I have the Storm Collectibles Haomaru, who's significantly taller. But yeah, that's kind of just to show you how he would compare to a Storm, even though Storm figures tend to be different across each series. So that's going to wrap it up for the review of the Figma of Yami Yugi. Let me know if you have this figure, and if you do, what are your thoughts on him? Thanks for watching, guys. See you in the next one.